I'm delighted to welcome Matt Brittin, the Managing Director of Google UK. I don't think I need to tell you people who Google are, so Matt, over to you.
Thank you. How are you doing? All right? I think this is probably the smartest audience I've ever addressed by some measure, and I'm not just talking about how beautiful you all look today, so thanks for inviting me. I'm going to talk about the acceleration of everything. I think the internet is bringing a pace of change that we've never seen before, a pace of change in competition, a pace of change in consumer behavior, a pace of change in technology, and a pace of change that can seem really confusing if you're a business trying to figure out how to reach customers, how to do the basic stuff that we're all trying to do day in and day out. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. So the UK and innovation, a little bit of a history lesson. We're quite good. We came up with a telephone. I'm asserting some of these things which are disputed by other countries, but we're all Brits here. We came up with a telephone. We came up with a radio. We came up with a television. And we came up with the internet. This is a pretty good track record, in my view. A pretty good track record of innovation and entrepreneurial spirit. And all of these technologies have changed the world. And I'd argue that the internet is set to change the world perhaps even more fundamentally than the others. And here are some stats. So we've got 1.8 billion internet users worldwide. 4.6 billion people with mobile phones. That's kind of important as we move from having phones that make phone calls to phones that are the entire internet in our pocket. That's quite an important number. And then here's this other thing. I work with lots of engineers. I have no idea what this number means. Okay? There are 800 exabytes of digital information in the world. Videos, photographs, music, text, etc. There's 800 exabytes. Apparently that's a lot. Anybody know what an exabyte is? Nobody. Brilliant. I'll get away with it. Okay, but look where that's going. By 2020, 5 billion people on the internet, 10 billion people with mobiles, many of those mobiles also the primary tool for accessing the internet. And look at the information. Now it's 53 zettabytes of information. I don't know what a zettabyte is either, but it's a lot. It's going to be a lot. There's going to be a lot of information up there. Let me ask you a question. Anybody in here on Facebook? Facebook? Yeah, quite a few people. Do you like it? Pretty good. Anybody see the movie? Yeah, it's quite a good movie as well, actually. I went to see it for professional reasons. It turns out it was quite a good movie. Facebook, 600 million users worldwide. 600 million. That grew by 250 million this year. Absolutely phenomenal growth. Those of you on Facebook, you are sharing 30 billion pieces of information with your network on Facebook every month. That might be links or videos or photos or whatever. It's a community for sharing, but it's one in which everybody is participating. It's not like the old web where you just go and read things passively. It's a very, very people participate a lot in it. Twitter, any twits in the room? Yeah, quite a few twits, actually. Twits are overrepresented, I can tell you, in this room, because there's 600 million on Facebook. I think there's 175 million people using Twitter today. 100 million of those started using Twitter last year. How many people have got an iPhone or an Android phone in the room? Can you just check? Wow, quite a lot. Again, you're at the leading edge of adoption. And when you moved from your BlackBerry or equivalent sort of 3G phone to your iPhone or Android phone, what did you do in terms of internet use? Did you go up or down? Up. But not just by a little bit. Typically, it goes up by sort of 30 to 50 times. People immediately started using the internet in situations when they didn't before. We know on Google, when people search on the computer, about 1 in 5 searches is related to a location. On the mobile phone, about 1 in 3. So people are looking for things near them all the time and using the phone all the time to find what's going on. So we had to change the way we crawl the internet and figure out what's there so that we could incorporate all of that and make sure we could do it as fast as possible. It's a major, major technology project for us. Totally invisible, actually, to the consumer, that project, until such time as we start using it in our search results. So you'll see, for example, things like this. This is a search for WikiLeaks, where you've got news updates and real-time results from Twitter incorporated into the search results, so bringing you the latest information on relevant queries. Another example, here's a search for the Kinect, which is a Microsoft Xbox next-generation gaming device. And in here you've got user ratings of the different sellers for whom you could buy the Kinect, and you've also got things like user videos and reviews. So we're bringing in the sort of social element to the results as well, reflecting how the web is today. Now, let me just share with you briefly, before I end, some headline findings about how we're doing here in the UK. £100 billion per annum of GDP contribution, BCG found. What they did was they looked across all the different industry sectors. When we look at GDP, we often look at transport and utilities and traditional sort of industry sectors, but they looked at the pieces of those sectors that were being enabled by the internet and added them together. That's a very big number, over 7% of GDP. If it were a sector, it would be bigger than transport or utilities, actually. But where we are is it's a bit like the early days of electricity. You know, we don't have an electricity sector per se. We've got electricity generation, but you know, we use electricity in every aspect of our day-to-day lives. It improves our productivity, it makes things faster and easier. And the internet's like that. It's just starting to permeate different areas, but it hasn't yet reached everything to the extent that nobody really talks about it anymore because we just take it for granted. So the first thing was it's very big, over 7% of GDP. The second thing was it's user-driven. 60% of that was consumers buying things on websites or consumers paying for access to and devices that allow them to do that. So very much consumer-driven, 60% of internet GDP in the UK. World leading. Now, this was a finding that not many people knew about. The UK is the #1 nation worldwide in terms of how much money is spent by consumers buying things online. Huge. Absolutely huge. We're quite good at this. We are a nation of digital shopkeepers. We're good at retail. We're quite a contained nation. And we innovate, actually, quite well. But not a lot of this has been visible over the last couple of years as all these other people have been grabbing the headlines, doing their things in banking or whatever. And then it's powered by small business. And this is really a message to, hopefully, many of you. When you look at small and medium-sized businesses which are using the web reasonably thoroughly, they are growing significantly faster than those that aren't. Small businesses that are doing this stuff are growing faster than large businesses that are doing this stuff. The agility and the lack of some of those big structural barriers to change that I mentioned earlier. And so if I've got one piece of advice, and I'm always cautious about advice because I think, you know, it's hard to sit somewhere like Google and say, well, you know, you should all do it the way that we do it because, you know, we're in a particular sweet spot, I guess, where we've figured out this thing called search, which really works online, and we've built a business that scales. It's hard to replicate that. But what I would say, my main observation of the businesses that do well taking advantage of the internet is that they get on and try stuff. And online, you can try stuff and fail fast and learn from it every day. In fact, you can do it multiple times a day. In fact, you can do it multiple times a minute. So the way we apply that in our business, an example, when you look at our sponsored links and our listings, and you type any word into Google, you get all these links in blue, don't you? Well, one of the things which we've done recently is we've gone, that's interesting, blue. I wonder if there is a shade of blue that people can read a bit more quickly and that gets them off our site to the website they're looking for fractionally faster. Good question. So we tested 40 different shades of blue by exposing small percentages of our users to those different shades of blue and seeing whether there was a shade that statistically significantly got people off our site faster. And it turned out there was. So we're using it. And so we've made search fractionally faster, marginally faster, but for millions and millions and millions of searches every day. And we know that when we make our results faster, people like our service better, they come back and use it more often. It's better for us because people are more loyal. It's better for the user because they find what they're looking for fast. It's better for you if you've got a website because people get to you quicker. So leap and learn. That's it, the acceleration of everything. Thank you very much.